Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, where we make sense of the fine print so you don't have to. Today we're looking at US Gold Corp and a filing that signals the end of an important chapter for their stock offerings. It is not exactly earth-shattering news, but it does tell us something about where the company is heading and how they plan to get there. Stick around to find out. Also, before we dive in, if you're tired of wading through confusing corporate jargon and want clear, actionable insights, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And hey, we've got a fantastic community over on our Discord server, linked in the description below, where we break down these filings together. So what we have here is a Form 8K filing. Think of this like a current events report for companies. It's filed when something significant happens that investors need to know about right away. In this case, the big news is the termination of a major agreement. US Gold Corp, or US Gold Corp, as they call themselves here, had a deal called a Controlled Equity Offering Sales Agreement with a company called Cantor Fitzgerald Thyban Co., or Cantor for short. Essentially, this agreement was US Gold Corp's way of being able to sell its own company stock on the stock market through Cantor acting as their salesperson. They first signed this deal back in June of 2025, and it was set up so they could offer and sell shares of their stock as needed. This was all done under a special registration statement filed with the SEC, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission, the main government body that oversees the stock market. Now, the key date here is October 10th of 2025. On this date, US Gold Corp told Cantor that they were ending this sales agreement. The termination itself will actually happen a bit later on October 20th. So why the sudden stop? The filing states it's because the company is no longer eligible to use a specific type of registration statement called Form S-3. This form is generally for companies that have been publicly traded for a while and meet certain financial criteria. When a company no longer meets those criteria, they can't use that specific speedy way to offer new stock. So essentially, they had to stop using this particular sales method. The good news for US Gold Corp is that they are not going to face any penalties for ending this agreement, which is always a positive when wrapping up a deal. Now, what does this all mean in the bigger picture? This termination suggests that US Gold Corp might be changing its strategy for raising money, or perhaps its financial situation has evolved to a point where using this particular method is no longer suitable or even possible. Companies use these equity offerings to get cash for operations, to fund new projects, or to pay off debts. Ending it means they might be looking at different ways to finance themselves, or they might feel they don't need this specific avenue at the moment. US Gold Corp. Our stock is traded on the Nasdaq capital market under the ticker symbol USOR. This means they are a public company, and their shares are available for anyone to buy and sell. When a company no longer qualifies for Form S-3, it can sometimes be a signal that their financial standing or reporting history has changed. It could be due to various reasons like not meeting the required filing deadlines, or perhaps not having enough public float or market capitalization. For investors, this termination might raise questions about the company's future funding plans. Will they explore other sales agents? Will they rely more on debt financing or perhaps internal cash flow? The lack of penalties is reassuring, but the underlying reason for them no longer being eligible for Form S-3 is something to keep an eye on. It is not necessarily a crisis, but it is a change in the operational landscape for the company. The filing is signed by Eric Alexander, who holds the titles of Chief Financial Officer and Corporate Secretary. This is standard practice and shows that the company leadership is aware of and responsible for this disclosure. So to wrap it up, US Gold Corp is terminating a key stock sale agreement because they no longer meet the requirements for a specific disclosure form. This shows a shift in how they can raise capital. While there are no penalties, it is worth watching how they proceed with their financing strategies moving forward. It's a subtle but important update in their corporate story. Now, looking at this whole situation as an investor, you have to ask what this means for the company's growth trajectory. When a company has to stop using a convenient way to raise money, it could indicate less financial flexibility or a strategic pivot. We didn't see any financial tables in this particular filing, which means the numbers that would tell us about their revenue, profits, or losses aren't here. This 8K is purely about a contractual change. If we were looking at a 10Q or a 10K, however, we would dive deep into those numbers to see if their underlying business is strong enough to perhaps not need these external funding avenues as much. For now, the story here is about process and access to capital markets. The strength of US Gold Corp at this moment hinges on its operational success and its ability to generate profits from its core business. The weakness could be its reliance on certain financial instruments or regulatory requirements. The opportunity for them is to find new and sustainable ways to fund their operations and growth. The risk is that without easy access to public stock sales, they might face challenges in scaling up quickly or weathering an economic downturn. In conclusion, this filing is a procedural update, but it does carry implications for how us Gold Corp will fund its future. It's a good reminder that the corporate world is always in motion and companies constantly adapt their strategies. Alright, that is our quick decode of this US Gold Corp filing. What are your thoughts on this move? Are you concerned about their financing options, or do you see it as a positive step towards financial independence? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more insider looks at corporate filings. And don't forget to join our Discord community linked in the description for more discussions. Thanks for watching. See you next time.